Do I have to use herbicides or tillage to terminate a cover crop? Can I roll it? Well, I don't know about you all, but I think I heard that question asked by farmers at nearly every cover crop event I've attended the past 3 or 4 years. And today, hopefully, we move towards answers to those questions. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephen Galens with Practical Farmers of Iowa, and accompanying behind the scenes is Haley Nelson. We're broadcasting live today from Levi Lyle's farm near Keota in Washington County to learn about roll crimping a cover crop and reducing tillage in organic crop production systems. But like an old-time movie, we start with the credits at the top before we go any further. This event is a joint effort between Practical Farmers of Iowa and our partner, Dr. Kathleen Delate, Organic Ag Specialist at Iowa State University. This field day is sponsored by the Iowa Organic Association. Since 2006, the Iowa Organic Association has led efforts to provide Iowans the information, support, and resources necessary to succeed in the organic industry. Our membership is a diverse community committed to advancing organic agriculture and food systems in Iowa. And by the Rodale Institute Midwest Organic Center. The Rodale Midwest Organic Center is a new organic research and education hub for farmers, researchers, ag professionals, and the public. On-farm technical support is available to assist you in transitioning any portion of your farm to organic production. And by Pipeline Foods. Pipeline Foods is accelerating the availability and reliability of organic, non-GMO, and regeneratively grown food. We bring transparent, sustainable supply chain solutions to connect the dots for our farming partners and end users of organic grains and ingredients. And by the Midwest Organic and Sustainable Education Service, otherwise known as MOSES. MOSES offers training, information, and farmer-to-farmer support to help you grow organically. To get answers about sustainable farming practices and organic rules, call the Organic Answer Line at 888-90-MOSES. That's 888-906-6737. I'd also like to thank our major sponsors for supporting our entire field day season. We could not do it without the financial support of these individuals and organizations listed here. Again, we could not bring all of these awesome virtual field days, numbering 60 in all this summer, to all of you without the support of these groups. So thank you for your support. A little bit about Practical Farmers of Iowa. We are a farmer member organization. As such, we go where our farmers tell us to go. We achieve this mission listed here by helping farmers connect and share knowledge in any which way. We're doing this today through a virtual field day. You can learn more about the many other great things we do with our members on our website. Okay, here's how today is going to go. We've got the rest of the hour with Levi and Dr. Delate. We're going to first describe their project. Then we're going to show some previously recorded video that Levi captured before witnessing a live demonstration in the field of roll crimping a cereal rye cover crop. Now, Levi requested that we conduct Q&A when they're done with their planned remarks and the demonstration. But as we go, please enter any questions you have using the comment box in Facebook. I'll be monitoring these throughout, and I'll take notes and relay them to Levi and Dr. Delate near the end when we get to the Q&A portion. And to get acquainted with the comment box, please let us know who you are now and where you're from. We'd love to know. And finally, when we're done, please tell us what you thought about this virtual field day. This is new to us, and we know it's new to you as well. We value your input. I will post a link to the survey in the comment box now, and I'll do it again at the end of the session. And just a note, final note, all those who fill out the survey will be entered into a drawing for a PFI branded water bottle. So please let us know what you think, and hey, you might win something cool. So for now, I'm going to hand it over to Levi and Dr. Delate to take us away. All right, it's all yours, Kathleen.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first virtual organic no-till field day. So apologies for the equipment noise in the background. We'll soon be showing the roller demo. But first, I'd like to acknowledge Levi, Lyle, and his family for hosting this project. We're very grateful. Levi's been an organic farmer for about 5 years and is known throughout the community for his soil conservation practices. So he'll be talking about those today, discussing them, showing you some videos of the work he's done. And also I'd like to already, Steven's already mentioned NRCS, USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, who supported this project. Also, I would like to acknowledge Leopold Center for Sustainable Agriculture, who's contributing to this project. And of course, PFI, we appreciate their support. So what we did before this field day started was go out and take biomass samples in Levi's field behind us for rye. You can see some of we took these samples at another farm to demo what you're doing when you sample your rye. Because one thing we found, we've been working on organic no-till since 2005, thanks to the Rodale Institute for bringing us a roller. You need an ample amount of rye for this system to work. So you want 7,000 to 9,000 pounds per acre in order to have a really good mat out there once you crush it down so weeds won't come through. So we took this sample in a square foot, we dried it down, and then you calculate how much you have. So we had, it turned out 0.17 pounds in that square foot, multiplied by 43,560 square foot per acre, and we're right on the money, 7,400 pounds per acre of rye. So that was at the Neely Kenyon site. I think Levi's rye here is actually thicker. He'll give you more details about how he planted it, when he planted it, and we'll be coming out bi-weekly now to take samples of how the soybeans emerge through the cover crop, the crushed cover crop. We'll also be monitoring weeds, insects, diseases, and finally yield. So with that, I'll turn it over to Levi for him to take you through the rest of the field day. Thanks for watching.
So during this practice, I'm going to talk for about 5 minutes here.
Levi, we cannot hear you. Kathleen, it might still be on your microphone and headset. Can you please make sure to... Levi, Kathleen, can you hear us?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you. Please start over.
Okay. All right. All right, so in transitioning to organic, we wanted to use a rye biomass. That's where we started out here 4 years ago when I began using that practice out here. The video I'm going to show you here is one of 3 videos. It's going to take a few minutes, and then we'll show you a live demonstration and how some of the equipment works. So what we did is we planted our rye crop in the fall, and we rolled it down right before going in and planting our soybeans. So the setup that I have is the roller crimper on the front and planting soybeans in the back. And so in this video in moments, you'll see that. This field that you're seeing this video on is right here where I'm standing. And so this was 25 years of no-till, a conventional system. And then we started using this roller crimping of the biomass to transition to organic. But that was what was going on out here. We, some of the specifications of that were that we planted at around 200,000 soybeans per acre. And I'll talk more about those specifications in a moment. This video here you're seeing is the harvest then later that fall. We had concerns whether or not we would be catching that trash, which was our mat. And this video demonstrated to us that the soybeans were going into the combine and not picking up on any trash, and it combined very well. And you'll see I kind of zoomed in here. This is what I was looking at, is that mat, which was really still 100% there, suppressing weeds. Was it going to catch on the edges of the combine head? It was very successful in not catching any of the trash. So what we were doing out here, we yielded 50 bushels an acre that first year. We actually ended up going soybeans again the second year. We hadn't intended on it, but the situation warranted it because of the conditions that next spring. So in the second year, we had 45 bushels an acre of soybeans. So those were the 2 years of my organic transition. Not everybody is going to have that kind of a yield. You know, the actual data out there shows that the average may be less yield than that. But we were successful with our yield during transition, and it was a good way to transition. All right, this is the third video you're seeing there of the manure that just popped up. My next concern was whether or not we would be able to put manure on the following harvest, and I just didn't know. I was very nervous about it. Here we have a drag line hose, and I was worried it was going to drag trash all over the field and doing that, but the manure went into that dry mulch very well. And so that was another question answered for me, which gave me more confidence in this system. So in that, I've kind of given a summary of how that experience went going through my transition. Ultimately, roller crimping and planting soybeans was an excellent system to begin that process. In a moment, I'm going to do a little walk up here and show this, but I'll talk as I go. I am a fan of a 15-inch planting system. That's what the soybean drill over here has. It also has holders in the front, and that has worked well for us. If you're at 15 inches or even drilling, you eliminate your ability to go in and high residue cultivate if you have a weed problem mid-season. So that is the advantage of 30-inch rows. But this system is on 30-inch rows. Here we have the Dawn system. I'm going to go ahead and, well, it might get loud, so I'm going to wait before I fire him up. But the Dawn PRX is part of this trial, and the Dawn system features a flex system which has down pressure, and then those flexible crimpers can turn with the contours of the land, and they also have a disc setting on front. This farmer raises up those front discs because they tend to move soil, and so in planting soybeans, he just keeps them up, so he doesn't have any revealing of the soil, and that is his setup. And so this trial is going to be assessing the Dawn and the traditional Rodale system, which I run. I'm going to fire him up, and it might be a little bit of noise. Meanwhile, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to talk about the Rodale roller. You see how it's just one flat surface, but the points of contact are just at one location as it rolls. And I'm going to turn him loose also right behind this roll. It'll take him just a moment. I can go ahead and talk to some points as we let him fire this up. Let me get away from it a little bit. Let me talk population. So he's planting about 200,000 seeds per acre. The recommended amount is above 200,000. The data out there shows that in an organic system, you really want to push your populations up because what you're trying to do is canopy as quick as possible. That's the reason for the higher population. We've toyed with lower populations in fields, and it's worked okay, but I mean, it's worked well. But in an organic system, you don't want to go back out there, because what you do is, I should have brought my knife so I can dig. So here's his row of seeds. We'll dig down in here. Let me come over here. These air planters often have a 20-foot space before they start planting seeds. I would need a knife. I didn't prepare for that. Actually see seeds down in here, but you get a sense of that mat. I'm going to turn the other roller loose, and he's going to come by, and I'll show you how that system works. Okay, so there's the roller. This planter has holders in the front, which creates a really nice setup for getting that soybean in the field. And so here's the slit. And if I peel this back, you can start to kind of see the soybeans down in the groove. I feel like I should reveal at least one. There, so you see the soybean down in the slit there. We've got a nice flat mat. That's what you're looking for in the organic system. All right, these guys are going to come back in just a moment, so you'll be able to see them from the approach, and then we'll have some time to do a question and answer. We like using speed. Oh, he might run over me. Okay, so in the Rodale system, we really like using speed out there. We could get to 8 or 9 miles an hour, and that works well because I feel like that rice stem snaps when it hits the front of the roller crimping implement. Of course, you want to be on land you're comfortable with and know there's no rust out there or anything if you're going to drive with speed. But that allows us to not add water to the implement because that speed kind of snaps the stem. Now, here we have the Dawn CRX that's coming through. And I'll try to show the flex system at work there. Kind of see how that is. And let me just bring it back here and kind of show you a view of where the Dawn has gone. Nice flat surface, leaves very little exposure to the soil. Any exposure is where the weeds are going to come through first. The Rodale model uses nothing to separate, to part the seed, and so there's no gap there. So in summary, that is that system. So I'm gonna let's see, I've already reviewed the specs for how we do our population. The only thing I haven't talked about is that we're at 2.5 bushels of rye per acre. There's some give and take in that. In an organic system, you're going to want to push at least 2 bushels. 3 is definitely a good way to go if the cost makes sense to you, right? 3 bushels is going to cost an extra $12 an acre because that's the cost of rice seed. But that's going to be an important part of it, is getting that population up. And in the conventional system, the population of the rye maybe isn't as important because you can come in July and clean things up. I'm going to just take a moment before we go to questions and answers. I'm going to mention that 1 month from today, July 2nd, same time, we're going to weed zap this trial. So we've got a weed zapper which uses high voltage electricity, and I'm going to go ahead and cue the video on that. You'll see this weed zapper at work, and we're going to feature that live 1 month from now, and you're going to see that out here. So it's time for questions and answers in a moment, but this weed zapping video gives you a taste of what that is going to be all about. It's going to be the same John Deere tractor, but we mounted up with this PTO generator on the back, and the Weed Zapper is the brand name of this implement. And we electrocute the weeds above the soybean canopy. So you see there's a lot of fire and the fireworks out there when we do that. It's a system that has been working really well on farms I work with. So at that, let's go to some questions, Stefan.
Yeah, sure. Levi, the first question is about, can you talk about your crop rotation? What was the crop previous to the soybeans you just planted?
Well, first let me say in general, it's corn soybean rotation on our farm. And so when I mentioned 25 years of no-till, that was the rotation throughout. When it comes to what we were growing right here, this was a prevent plant location last year. So that allowed us to get this rye out here in mid-September, which was a huge advantage. That is why we are above 7,000 pounds per acre on this biomass. Getting the rye out there early is key. So I'm playing with growing shorter season corn, more like 105-day corn in my organic system, just to ensure that I get out there, get it harvested, and get my rye seeded. Getting a good rye seeding is such an essential part of the roller crimping system. I'll wait for your next question, but this will go into corn next year then.
Okay, other questions for Levi, please enter those into the comment box so that I can relay those to him. Appreciate all you tuning in and letting us know where you're from. Some people are watching while they're baling rye or crimping rye themselves right now, Levi, or so they say.
Yeah, so that's a segue to a funny little comment I can make. I wrote a song about roller crimping actually, and sometime I'll share that with our viewers who pack Farmers of Iowa. But that song starts out, could have brewed whiskey, could have fed his cows, could have baled the straw to bed his sows. Roller crimped rye down, or improve soybean profits, earthworms abound. I could go on. That's first one. But I look at the cattle farmers that are as neighbors, and I know they're maybe scratching their heads that I've got all this good food out here, you know, right? Like livestock could eat it, but in my system, that biomass is better off on my land and inhibiting the weeds. So it's a system that has a fit, and it won't fit into everybody, you know, everybody's game. But for what I'm doing in organics, it has been a really good fit. I'm new to the organic field here at 4 years, and it's just an excellent way to transition. And since so many farmers are at that point, it's a good start to the game, you know, and that's why I'm kind of promoting.
Okay, Levi, I got a few more questions for you. Looked like on the video, at least from our feed, that some of the rye didn't lie down entirely with either of the implements. So how comfortable do you feel with that, or what are your thoughts on the rye that's not entirely laid down as a mat? What can you speak about that?
In organics, you want it laying down, because if it's not laying down, it's not providing that mat. Now, the rye in general has inhibited weeds because of the effects of that rye in the soil. It inhibits other weeds from growing. So you're going to have less foxtail, less mare's tail, less water hemp, just because the rye is out there. In organics, you want it laying down. There's the element of the rodale where you could add water. As I mentioned, we like to use speed out there. That seems to help really get a good crimp. Changing the angle that one goes through the field, maybe 45 degrees from the way the rye is planted, could help it lay down better. When it comes down to it, there's no simple solutions to getting the rye to lay down if you have a thin stand. That's why 2 bushels, 3 bushels, that's where you want to be at to make sure you get a good rye stand. If it's not, then high residue cultivating midsummer is going to be something that you could do, or weed zapping, of course, which is the next step on my farm. It's going to help address those weed issues that come through.
Great, thanks, Levi. Hey, I got a question about how you seeded the fall rye. You said you did it in mid-September. Can you tell us what implement you used to seed the rye?
Yeah, 15.5 foot 750 John Deere drill is what we use out here. On some of our other fields, we used a 30-foot air seeder to seed the rye. Always drilled, so 7.5 inch spaces between rows to get that rye out there. Actually, we always drill it, but some farmers might, if they're in a tillage system, they might go in and disc it and then broadcast the rye on top of the soil, harrow it in, that kind of thing. There are farmers who have their broadcast system on top of their disc type implement, which creates a nice bed for that rye to disperse and grow evenly. So there's many ways you can get rye out there. Ultimately, you want good coverage of your rye. People have tried air seeding with airplanes, which technically could work, except you end up with areas of your field in the corners, etc., where the rye seeding is not consistent. So it's really not recommended to use an airplane to seed your rye if you're planning to roller crimp.
Okay, great. Got a question about the planter settings. What type of coulters, openers, and closing wheels were you using to seed those soybeans?
On the 1500 soybean special, we've got the coulters in the front. That system has worked well for us. We, those international plant disc openers do a fine job up in front of the row. I've seen farmers who want to rely on a down pressure system and force that seed into the ground. But my experience on one farm was that a farmer didn't have very new disc openers on his planter, and he put 400 pounds per inch down on the ground per row and could not get through the rye mat. It was just too much rye stand for him to get through. So having sharp equipment that is updated is going to be key. It doesn't matter if you're international John Deere or otherwise. You got to have sharp equipment that's well maintained. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get through the rye. It works well on my system to roller crimp right in front of the tractor because that soybean is going immediately into the row. Farmers who may want to plant soybeans and roll it afterwards can, but you are up against another variable, and that's that if you have a thick rye stand, you could have trouble getting through the mat, depending on how sharp your cutters are. And so that's just, one more variable in a system that already has many variables, not to mention the elements. So that's my summary on equipment.
What about your closing wheels, Levi? Can you speak to those?
The international closing wheel has that kind of packs the ground there behind it. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a whole story. If I were to summarize closing wheels, I'd say that 1 year ago, all farmers recall that we couldn't get in the field. There were no soybeans planted in this county until June, none, GMO or otherwise. And so in doing that a year ago, we went out and roller crimped and planted our soybeans into wet soil, and the crevice didn't close. The beans just were sitting there. But if you could depend on one thing a year ago, it's that there was going to be another rain coming. So rain on soybeans that are sitting there visible will help them grow, so you don't end up with a problem. I don't know if I did a good job of making a joke out about that or not. But of course, you want your beans to be covered up. Soybeans are pretty adaptable. If the rains come right, you don't have to worry too much about what they look like underneath that mat. That's the point I'm trying to get at. But the best conditions are that there's a nice lush soil that's going to cover up that closing wheel with that closing wheel.
So Levi, you mentioned or you showed the video of manure application previously. Do you put liquid manure on ahead of the rye as well to fertilize the rye, or is that just after the soybean harvest in your rotation that you apply liquid swine manure? So do you apply any manure to fertilize the rye to get more biomass?
Yeah, that was the situation in that one. In the video you saw, we seeded rye after putting on that manure. So fertility is going to create more biomass, and that's what you want. That's definitely what you want. You could run into trouble if you get too much fertility out there, because your rye stand could slow down and make it so it's down, a month before you even plan to go in and roller crimp, which could make it difficult when that time comes. We haven't had that issue, but we're cognizant of how much manure we're putting on here. The system that you saw was 6,500 gallons per acre. That was the rate that we wanted, and we were actually preparing for wheat in year 2, and then corn our first year of organic certification. But that didn't work out. We ended up seeding rye instead, without making it a long story. That's kind of in summary what happened out here when we put that manure on.
Okay, more questions about, particular to the manure, Levi. Are you using finishing hogs or for a nursery or sow facility? And what was your manure rate ahead of the rye that you applied?
Year 1 transition, we had no manure out here. So in growing conventional corn and beans, we would typically have used urea. We didn't use anhydrous ammonia. We were nitrogen depleted out here. The nitrogen for that first rye crop would have been, basically, it would have been corn the year before. So we were depleted in nitrogen. We made up for that with our 2.5 bushels an acre of rye. So the stand wasn't there because of fertilizer. It was there because we put so darn much rye out there. So that's how we went into transition. I think fertility is an important, of course, it's an important component, but I'm visualizing farmers that always have a hillside that has the depleted nutrients where the rye doesn't quite grow. In an organic system, it's just difficult to get the biomass to grow in certain locations like that, and manure is going to be, manure is basically it in the area I'm living in. So it's going to be the key to getting those areas to grow better biomass. And where there's trouble, it might be the case where a farmer has to go out and mow a certain area of his organic field just because he hasn't gotten the rye mat to suppress weeds in that area. For us, then I guess that's sort of segue to say the weed zapping unit has been the answer to that question. We've been able to address weed pressure. To answer the other part of the question is what kind of manure? We've got finishing buildings within a quarter mile that are the neighbors, so we use that manure. One of those buildings is a nursery, so it's kind of a mix of the nursery manure as part of that. The manure is a little bit watery on the nursery facility possibly, so that would hold down the nitrogen level in our fertilizer.
Okay, got a few more questions here, Levi. Because you're organic and using roll-crimping to control weeds, how much do you figure you're saving on costs not using herbicides?
Well, in a nutshell, it is profitable for us. But when I think just like off the top of my head, the costs we're saving, $6 an acre for a herbicide pass, for multiple, each herbicide pass out there. The system of using the roller crimping takes a little more time. So the labor involved in roller crimping is that also the additional seed cost of the rye seed is an element that adds to the organic system. But it's more profitable. Some of the data that's out there that the USDA has gathered kind of puts that all in spreadsheets. What I recall seeing here just a couple weeks ago is that the system of using a no herbicide roller crimp system saves about $10 an acre when all things are accounted for.
Cool, and I'll let through one more question here before we wrap up, Levi, and it's about do you use crop insurance where you're raising this crop here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we use crop insurance, and for us, that I often look at RMA rules and kind of figure out, okay, as we make a big shift in agriculture for more sustainable ways, that includes this conversation we won't get into today about interseeding crops and how you can't go out necessarily and put interseeding in a corn crop that's still tasseling or something like that, because it could affect your corn yield. There's some RMA rules that are a little bit against us as we innovate how it is we're changing our systems. In this system, there's no concerns because the rye is done growing and at termination stage June 1st. The rye, the beautiful thing about using rye as the cover crop is rye is done. June 1st is in flower, and the only thing left to do is put energy into that seed, and then that rye crop is done. So it's really not competing with your soybeans, and insurance rules wouldn't have any view on it for that reason. But I can't help but go down the path in my mind of talking about organic allowability. There are several farmers like me who want to grow soybean crops 2 years in a row in their organic system. I work with my certifier in transition, and that was approved, but people would have to work with their certifier specifically. I made the case in my system that rye cover crop had fully matured, therefore it, in essence, fits in as a full part of my system. I'm going on about that because national organic rules require that there is a rotation of at least three crops in your system. And you can never grow the same crop 2 years in a row. And as I just stated, I kind of made the case as to why 2 years of soybeans in a row was what I wanted to do out here. And so there's questions regarding that people will want to work closely with their certifier on. And I've shared my experience on how that went and what I was able to do.
Hey, Levi, on that note about diversifying a crop rotation, can you speak about the cover crop you use going from soybeans to corn? Do you have any plans for that?
In my organic system out here, I am in tillage. So I could pick the camera up and pan it right now, and you'd see that I cultivated my field out here with the soil finisher and planted my organic corn in 30-inch rows. So that's the system I'm currently in for my corn, is tillage before going into corn. I say that kind of hesitantly because I have aspirations of no-till organic corn, but the data just isn't out there yet to give me confidence to go out and try it on a 40. That's I think it's coming. Honestly, I think we're really close with some of the trials I'm seeing just in the area, but that might be a field day on its own coming up right now.
Cool. Well, Levi, before I wrap things up, any final comments that you'd like to impart and let our viewers take away with them on this sunny, hot afternoon in Iowa?
Well, I want to thank you for tuning in and sticking with us here through the questions. Tune in 1 month from now because these soybeans will be out of the ground. The two systems that we're comparing using a Rodale style roller crimper and the Dawn ZRX model roller crimper, they are two approaches to doing this roller crimping that is going to really give some context into what's being done, and you'll see, I hope, that both systems are effective depending on the setup for a specific farmer. So tune into that, and also the weed zapping will be an element that we look at in this trial 1 month from now. So that's all I have to share today. I appreciate that Texas Farmers of Iowa and Iowa State University and NRCS is supportive of this project. Thanks.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Levi, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Here's some info about that upcoming field day. We'll be back with Levi in about a month on July 2nd, as he mentioned, to take a look at how that field is looking, and we'll see an electric weed zapping demonstration. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Levi, thank you very much for hosting us. This was great, and we'll let everybody have a pleasant day.